For a moment, let's introduce our reporters, editors out and about across the national capital. I want to introduce Geeta Mohan, who has been on a big role leading our coverage on the ground, interviewing world leader after world leader. They're doing one bilateral with Prime Minister Modi, and they have one mini television bilateral with Geeta Mohan. So we're hoping she can keep that going through the day today as well. Paulami Saha joins us from the Bharat Mandapam, and we've got Nabila Jamal out and about near Lodi Road. So I want to go across to Geeta Mohan first. Geeta, we are picking up from sources in the government that the Chinese haven't been quite as obstructionist as was feared before Li Xiang got here, and that not just in Nu but in the negotiations that went on the next day as well, which is yesterday, the Chinese have been reasonably accommodative. They've put forth the Chinese perspective, but they haven't tried to derail the agenda. At this moment, your sources in the Ministry of External Affairs, how confident are they that there will be a joint communique come Sunday?
Well, Rahul, a very good morning. The information that's trickling in is that China has not been as obstructionist. They're putting their national agenda forward. That just means that on many fronts where China is not comfortable with the language of the joint communique, China is not accommodating. Yes, on areas such as climate change, where we will see the developed world give in a little, and the developing nations will also have to give in a little in the language, there could be accommodation there. But on other fronts, particularly to do with Russia-Ukraine war, the geopolitical issues, talking about maritime security and UNCLOS, which is following the international order in the seas, is something that Russia objects to because of their reasons, given that they're at war with Ukraine, and China objects to, saying that G20 is an economic forum and they will not allow geopolitical issues. So while there is information coming in about them being accommodating, will that translate into an absolute only joint communique, a consensus document, or is there going to be chair's summary? That's something that we'll have to wait and see. And again, Rahul, the Sherpa meetings are over. It's all done. Amitabh Kant held that press conference. He said that we will only talk about the joint communique after the summit is over. Now it is for the leaders to intervene and ensure that there is joint communique. The onus lies on the leaders.
You know, the fact is, though, Geeta, that what we've seen over the last year is that there hasn't been a single joint communique on any of the critical issues confronting G20.
But can I say, Rajdeep, that it was the same in Indonesia as well? When Indonesia had the G20 presidency last year, in all the ministerials, it seemed that there was too much divergence among the countries on a joint language. And then just right when the Leaders Summit started, things progressed and they were able to come up with a common formulation.
A common formulation, but a watered-down formulation.
Sure.
I mean, the worry is, of course, that when you have a joint communique, is it simply about the optics of having one? Or do you want something substantive? That, Geeta, is the question. Do you get a substantive communique on critical issues?
On Russia, Ukraine, you can't have a substantive communique. But on other issues like climate finance, sustainable development goals, reform of multilateral development banks, several of the key themes that India has been pushing as it seeks to emerge as the voice of the global south, give an India narrative to global affairs. If you're seeing 35 solid points of action, which is what Amitabh Kant and the others have been working on certain issues of divergence, there will be a watered-down approach for certain.
But that's the problem that you had in Bali as well. I mean, you're still, even a year after Bali, still struggling on the critical issues of climate finance. You're still struggling on debt restructuring. Are you going to make progress? You see, this meeting, I thought it was good. Kanwal yesterday on my show made an important point. He said G20 has to decide, does it want to retain its relevance in the new world order, or does it want to be taken over by smaller groupings like BRICS? Because if you can't come to agreement substantively, then the G20 will reduce itself to little more than this once in a year talking shop of leaders coming together. So it's a huge challenge for the G20. It's an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity to actually walk the talk on critical issues like climate finance, like debt restructuring. You have your difficulties with Ukraine, set them aside, but at least ensure that there is substantive progress, particularly on debt restructuring and climate finance. So I think it's a huge opportunity.